Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right Look there. At this.
Moves him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go.
Didn't mean to really turn around. Meant to rally his cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt, the Stat Man Reilly, and Eric, Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Kyle Larson type of weekend, going 3 in a row in the playoffs. Double locking himself into that round of 4, I guess. I mean, he didn't really need the points. We'll jump into it, but first, if you like this podcast, make sure you like on YouTube, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. Podcast available on all podcast platforms every Monday night: Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. Every Tuesday morning, video available on YouTube. And make sure, if you're watching the video and we ask a question, comment along. We want to know your feedback. Give us some feedback how we can improve the show. And make sure you tell all your friends. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Bump the Letter N Run Pod. And follow us on Facebook. Same deal. Bump and Run Pod. Fellas, how the hell are you guys doing? How was your weekends? Eric, you were out in the woods, weren't you, this weekend? What were you doing?
Oh, yeah. Went on a little camping trip, little boys trip out to the woods in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. Also famously known for the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon.
So this is something I never heard of until you guys started camping there a couple of years ago. What is the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon? What's the deal with that?
It is exactly what you just said. It is Pennsylvania, its version of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, but like how did it happen? Did a meteorite hit in the middle of the Stone Age and shit?
It's probably all glacier, bro. It's probably all glacier. You know, they come ripping through the mountainside, and they actually use the stream and the river. It's a big logging area, so they cut down a bunch of hardwoods back in the day, and they would send them down the river to the locals, and like it was a big logging. Last year we went to the Lumber Museum, which is in Potter County, a little 20 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
It's just a cool little, logging town. It's in the middle of nowhere. Just beautiful sights, especially this time of year, with the fall foliage and everything going on. So, couple 2-3 beers and sitting next to a campfire, playing cards, just, getting away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. And it was nice to get out there and see some people I haven't seen in a while and just share a good time together.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's all about. It got a little chilly up there, though, didn't it? You guys snuggling up together to stay warm?
It did get cold. It did get cold, but
nuts to butts.
I went down with my buddy Luke, who has a 1991 old camper van.
The Econoline.
The Econoline camper van. And I was kind of shitting on him all week leading up to this because for those of you that don't know my buddy Luke, he tends to procrastinate and says things, oh, yeah, that's taken care of. And it's usually not. So I trusted him with this camper. And I'll tell you what, he came through. The bed, we swiveled the chairs in, was comfy. The temperature, though, in the early morning, I noticed a change. That's when the generator ran out of fuel and the little heaters we had inside. Out. You went to bed, it was okay. The temperature wasn't too bad. But when you woke up, it was one of those, let's get this blanket up over the head. You know what I mean?
You wake up with that runny nose and that sore throat.
Yeah, all day today. I was like, are you sick? I'm like, nah, man. I was in the woods for the last 3 days, and it gets cold out in those woods, especially like up there where you're down in a ravine and underneath the cover of the shade from the trees and everything. So it's probably even colder where we were, especially next to a creek.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you're listening or watching out of the area, out of the Pennsylvania state, I know we got a lot of listeners down South Texas, South Carolina, all sorts of places around there. Pennsylvania mountains, absolutely beautiful. Like, you can't beat the scenery. I mean, we're like the tippy top of the Appalachian Mountains up here and stuff. It is really a breathtaking experience. And what they say about fall and the foliage, all the trees are dying. They look beautiful. So, but how about you, Matt? What were you doing?
Well, the plan was to have a quiet weekend, and I guess I kind of did. I was telling you guys off air. It was Saturday night, Notre Dame versus USC, as it's well documented on here. Big Notre Dame fan,
Yeah.
and that's their big rivalry. So they didn't get to play last year because of COVID. So it was 2 years in the making, and I got a little more drunk than I thought I was going to get. It was one of those nights where the beers just went down a little extra smooth.
Yeah.
And they just kept going, and before I knew it, I was enjoying my night.
Were you drinking in celebration or in regret and defeat?
No. At the end of the game, it was in celebration. It was a beat down. Notre Dame took them out behind the woodshed, so that's good. So it was a successful weekend.
Yeah, I'm an accidental USC fan. I tell people I'm a USC fan. All because of a missed text message a couple years ago, actually to Eric. I wanted to see it was like a Saturday night back when UFC was first really gaining popularity in 2008, 2009. I text Eric. I'm like, he was at Gary Blank's house, our buddy Gary's house. It's actually his birthday today. Happy birthday, even though he doesn't listen to this podcast. And that son of a bitch. And and I text Eric. I go, yo, is USC still on? I want to text you UFC. I got it all mixed up. And actually, I think I might have texted Bubba. I think I mixed up who I was texting too. I don't think I was texting Eric. I don't know. It was a long time ago. I'm getting confused.
I was with Bubba. You did text him because we were going to watch the fights together.
Okay, yeah.
Me and Bubba, we were so thrown off because we're we know he gives, he doesn't give a shit
shits about football.
USC. And he's like, why would he want to know if USC is on right now? He's a USC fan right now, and what's do? He's like, oh, my bad. So from that day forward, he was a USC fan, and
go.
I think still to this day, right? You kind of still
go Trojans, victory, baby, V for victory.
Christ.
But I didn't even know they were playing Notre Dame this weekend. But I got roped into some fall festivities myself. Matt, my girlfriend, heard the podcast a couple weeks ago where you and your wife went to the pumpkin patch, and
did you go get lost in a corn maze?
I got lost in a corn maze. I went up to Roba Farm, and I was so mad because we're just walking around in circles. We have this little piece of paper. Apparently, you had to find stations with little numbered pieces, and it fills in the corn maze map, I guess. I don't know. I didn't figure it out till a little kid found one of the things and went running over. I'm like, oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing. I swear to God, I was in there for an hour. I don't know. But
I got lost. I told you I was in there for more than an hour. Definitely in there for more than an hour.
It's really disorienting too. I didn't like it at all.
You guys got to get it together. Get it together, fellas.
Dude.
You know the escape rooms that you guys, you're not getting a phone call, and you're not getting a phone call.
I've spent my entire life hunting, and I've never not once, ever gotten lost in the woods. And I go into this freaking corn maze, and I got completely turned around. I mean, if I needed to, I knew how to get out and which way was which. But if you want to follow the actual corn maze path, you gotta figure it out, man. It's not easy.
And that's the thing too. It's all corn. It all looks the same. Every turn's the same. Really,
I got to a point. Steph started yelling at me. I got to a point that we were in there for so long. I started snapping off corn and leaving them in the trail. So I knew. So I knew if we got back to that spot, I knew we were there already.
Not a bad
plan.
Dude,
Steph, I threw this corn down 25 minutes ago.
I knew I was here. I could smell the corn. All right, you guys want to jump into the NASCAR news? Not a whole lot going on this week.
Yeah.
So, John Hunter Nemechek, I don't remember if we talked about it last week. He will return to Kyle Busch Motorsports in 2022. I think that's a good move. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. In Xfinity Series news, Brandon Jones also going to be returning to Joe Gibbs Racing. Not much to say about that. He's running for an Xfinity Series championship. Got that was Harrison Burton that got taken out by Myatt Snyder this past week. But
Brandon Jones is one of those drivers who could potentially be good and win multiple races a year, but he just doesn't seem to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
It just hasn't clicked.
Get one win here and there, you know what I mean? But it's like nothing really clicked for him. And you know what? He's been in this series for quite a while now, a few years now. And, you know, good to see someone get a ride back. But, like, man, just he's got to get over that hump a little bit there.
Yeah, especially with all the Toyota drivers in the pipeline to waiting to take a seat. Not a whole lot of Toyota seats, a lot more in Xfinity than there is in Cup, but way more in trucks than there is in Xfinity. So always people waiting to take those seats. Let's see. And the last piece of news, told you, real light news week this week, at least from what I saw. Dale Jr., Tony Stewart, and Clint Boyer are all scheduled to test the next-gen car at Bowman Gray Stadium on Tuesday. That is tomorrow as we record this podcast. So it should be interesting. Dale Jr. and Clint Boyer, I understand from the commentary perspective. I was kind of shocked to see Tony Stewart's name in the list. Maybe because of his short track experience with the SRX series this past year. Maybe they want to see how the cars drive on a short track. I just thought that was pretty interesting. But we should see how that test goes at Bowman Gray. Of course, Bowman Gray is going to be the stadium that they are using as a model for the Coliseum Clash race coming up this February. So we'll see how the next-gen car handles a short track. Should be pretty interesting. And that is all I have for NASCAR news. 3 stories.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. I had the same reaction, Whitey. You know, okay, I understand Junior and Boyer getting out there, but Tony Stewart's interesting. But I mean, if anyone knows how to shake down a car, it's smoke. So I guess maybe that has something to do with it as well.
That's true. And who knows, maybe some ownership perspective there too. I don't know. I thought it was really weird that Tony Stewart was going to be involved. But I mean, the guy's driven everything under the sun, so makes sense.
I think that's what it is. I mean, I think we could all agree that SRX series was a success, and I think
absolutely.
I think NASCAR knows that it was a success. And you know, when it came to developing that car, I'm sure Tony had his hands all over that and wanted a car to drive like he wanted it because he knows, you know, what it takes to put on a good show at the type of racing that he's going to do in that SRX series. So I think with the success of that, they're like, hey, we need Tony to be a part of this. Being a team owner in NASCAR still, like, I think they really, really valued his knowledge of how to build a car that's going to produce on, like you said, those short tracks. And I think it'll be cool to see Tony get back behind the wheel of one of those cars.
Absolutely. I know they put the next gen testing from Charlotte a couple weeks ago live on YouTube. I don't know if they'll do the same. Hopefully they do, or at least they'll do some video packages for, you know, NASCAR America and stuff like that. But you guys want to jump into this week in NASCAR history?
Let's hear it.
And this story literally, it had happened yesterday, 17 years ago. If you watched the broadcast during the race, you definitely heard the name Ricky Hendrick and heard a little bit about that. But I figured we go a little bit deeper. Joseph Riddick, Ricky Hendrick the fourth. I thought that was interesting that I didn't realize he was the fourth and Mr. H is the third. I don't know, something about the third, the fourth, those names. I love that stuff. There's a guy I used to work with. His name was Bill. I'll leave his last name out, the third. And I was so mad that he didn't name his son the same name, the fourth. Like, it's a missed opportunity. You got to keep that going at that point. You know what I mean? But sorry for the off topic thing. But Ricky started his racing career at the age of 15. Of course, the son of legendary car owner Rick Hendrick. He competed in the Busch, now Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. He made a handful of Busch and Truck starts before going full-time in trucks in 2001, and he had a pretty damn good rookie year. He finished 6th in points and was extremely consistent, finishing just outside the top 10 in 5 of the 24 races. So way more than 50% of the races he was in the top 10, a lot more in the top 5. In 2002, though, he would move to the Busch Series as Hendrick Motorsports shut down their Truck Series program. He would pilot the number 5 car, but an accident at Las Vegas would cause him to miss several races that season due to a arm injury and a concussion, real bad concussions. And eventually it would cut his career short. When he returned, the speed just wasn't there. He realized his nagging arm injury was slowing him down, and he dropped out of the series. Instead, he would decide to focus on ownership, following the footsteps of his father, of course, the famous Rick Hendrick. He would own the Hendrick Motorsports number 5 Xfinity car, and he would pick Brian Vickers to drive the number 5 in 2003. Vickers would go on to win an Xfinity Series championship that year and move up to Cup Series the following season. So then Ricky, the eye for talent, decided to give an up-and-coming driver a shot. You might not have heard of him, but his brother Kurt was a pretty good Cup racer at his time and still is. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this guy. His name's Kyle Busch out of Las Vegas. Yeah,
Nope.
Yeah, he was chosen to race the number 5 full time in 2004. I wonder whatever happened to that guy. Well, just one of those names you forget about over the years. Kyle Busch, of course, would go on to win 5 races in his rookie season in the Xfinity Series, but fall short to Martin Truex Jr. for the title that year. He came in second. Unfortunately, Ricky never got to see the end of the season and that success. On October 24th, 17 years ago yesterday, a Beechcraft Super King prop plane crashed into the mountains of Stewart, Virginia, on its way to Martinsville for the Cup race. Ricky's father, Rick Hendrick, was supposed to be on board, but he wasn't. He wasn't feeling well that day. He decided to stay home in Charlotte. Unfortunately, 10 people were on board, though, and they all lost their lives that day. On board was John Hendrick, the president of Hendrick Motorsports, his twin daughters, Kimberly and Jennifer, general manager Jeff Turner, and chief engine builder Randy Dorton. The pilot, Richard Tracy and Elizabeth Morrison, both perished, as well as Joe Jackson, a DuPont executive, and Scott Latham, Tony Stewart's pilot. And, of course, Ricky Hendrick, the heir to the Hendrick dynasty. 17 years ago yesterday, Hendrick Motorsports would forever be altered. Yesterday, Hendrick honored Ricky at the site of his first and only truck win in Kansas. I thought that was pretty interesting. Ricky Hendrick's first and only win was at Kansas. And yesterday we were at Kansas on the 17-year anniversary. Absolutely, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And to honor him yesterday, that number 5 HMS car, sporting the same exact paint scheme that Ricky used to run in the truck series. I never realized it was a throwback to Ricky that Kyle Larson's been running all season. Well, he won the race. He took the green flag in first. He took the checkered flag in first. He led lap 5. He won stage 1. He led the most laps of the field yesterday and won in dominating fashion. Kyle Larson, of course, giving the ultimate tribute to Ricky on the day he passed. The crew at HMS also sport their hats in reverse, much like Matt the Stat Man is right now, in remembrance of Ricky, a signature style of Ricky. And it was just a shocking and tragic death that HMS still feels to this day, almost 20 years later. And I got a little chills thinking about it. All the things lining up yesterday for that win for Kyle Larson too. And that's this week, literally yesterday in NASCAR history.
Yeah, super tragic event. It stinks that happened. Mr. Hendrick lost a good portion of his family there.
Yeah.
But they do a really good job every year of remembering it, especially when they go back to Martinsville in the playoff race. So it was cool to see the tributes yesterday. Like you said, all of HMS turning their hats backwards. I believe that when Larson won and went to victory lane, they took a bunch of pictures with them pointing up towards the sky. So
yeah,
really cool. Steve Letarte, who was I believe he was a car chief when that happened back then, touched on it a little bit during the broadcast. So he even had some kind words to say. So yeah, good stuff. I mean, it stinks that happened, but NASCAR does a good job of remembering those 10 people that died that day.
Yeah, definitely an unfortunate story. Just kind of crazy though, I think, where Hendrick Motorsports might be today if Ricky lived. I mean, would Jeff Gordon have the role he's in right now? Probably not. I mean, Ricky was kind of setting up to take over Hendrick, and now look at Jeff Gordon. He's going to definitely be the successor and be running Hendrick and probably a couple years from now. Just kind of crazy to see how the chips fall. And, you know, I bet you it's hard as a father to keep your team going too, after that kind of tragedy, when a lot, like you said, a lot of your family members passed away, and then to keep coming to the track every week and whatnot, you know, just kind of interesting to reflect on just the way the dominoes fall sometimes, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, with that situation, it's like you said, it's never easy to keep going and keep moving forward when such tragedy, you know, happens. But I think that's what sports does the best.
Yeah.
Sports, it brings people together. It keeps people close, and you know, the friendships and the relationships that you build. Whether it be a football team, a NASCAR team, any kind of sport, the camaraderie that you build and over the years, it's not only I'm friends with you, it's we're family now. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, being in the sport of NASCAR and, you know, all the teams around them and being with each other every week, traveling week to week, they had a good support crew behind everybody, and I'm almost certain that probably made it a little bit easier to keep going, because I bet you people, you know, told them keep going. You know, we have your back, and that's the amazing part about sports. And you know, in the regards of when you lose someone and you have a tragedy, there's always, you know, people there to pick you up that you befriended over the years. So it's a tragedy, but like you said too, man, it would have been interesting to see who'd be in those cars over those years, and you know, maybe Kyle Busch stays there in that 5 car, and you know, it just, you know, it is fun to ponder that sometimes, but they still ended up being a dominant team and you know, in contention here to run away with the championship if Larson does get it done.
Oh yeah. And I see no reason why he can't get it done this season the way he's running, especially the last couple of races. But like you said, Eric, NASCAR is definitely a very family sport. Of course, we just mentioned the Hendricks, the Pettys, the Earnhardts. One family though, the Gibbs,
The Wares.
the Wares. I forgot to mention in the news, one of the Wares went to jail. I don't even want to give that story any thought though. Anyways.
I had to say it. I'm sorry.
Anyways, my segue was going to be about NASCAR families and the grandson, Ty Gibbs, getting his 4th Xfinity Series win for his grandfather's team. It's just insane. It's just, the kid comes in and he takes 4 wins away from these Xfinity Series regulars. When are they going to put a stop to it? You know, they finally stopped all those Cup regulars for coming down and stealing wins. They got to get rid of these ARCA guys moving up here and taking these wins from these Xfinity Series regulars. But seriously, how impressive. I mean, I don't care what you say about the kid and his upbringing. The kid can wheel a car, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. 4 Xfinity Series wins in his first part-time season. Wait till he goes full-time. We'll see. But yeah, Ty Gibbs getting the win down in Kansas Saturday night. Kyle Larson, the California kid, win number 9, and broke another record that was set by someone we just mentioned, Jeff Gordon. The record for most laps led in a 36 race season just got shattered by Kyle Larson yesterday, and he still has 2 more races to go, just padding onto that record. Unbelievable. 9 wins on the season, 10 if you count the Texas All-Star race. And man, if he doesn't win a championship this year, I don't know. I mean, Kevin Harvick didn't win last year, though. What do you guys think about the win last week for Kyle Larson? Shocked? Yeah. Probably not.
No, not shocked at all. I mean, super impressive. And another thing, too, that just blows my mind is he has you just mentioned the laps led. He's got 1,000 more, or I think it's like 997, but whatever. He's got 1,000 more laps led than the next guy, Denny Hamlin.
That's insane.
Just let that sit for a second. 1,000 more laps led this season. That's insane.
You know what's crazy though? Going into this race though, if you went by the old Winston Cup points, Denny Hamlin was still beating Kyle Larson in the old Winston Cup points going into Kansas. Even with all those wins and all those laps led, Denny Hamlin still consistency. Man, insane. I thought that was a fun fact. I've been following the old Winston points this season just to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, but that just goes, I don't know. We've gotten into it a couple times. I don't want to, keep going back.
Yeah,
that just shows
it's
how
an old tired argument.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't know. Some will say that was the superior way to count points. The highlights though for Kansas, 7 cautions for 33 laps and a weather red flag, 23 lead changes among 8 drivers. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, your top 5. Another 2 playoff drivers getting top 5, or 2 non-playoff drivers getting top 5s again. Strong showing from the non-playoff drivers this week. I was impressed by Kurt Busch. I'll get into that in a little bit. But do you guys want to jump into the race grades?
Let's go.
All right. I think we went with Eric first last week, Matt. Let's start with you. What's your race grade for Kansas?
I gave it a C.
Okay.
It was an odd race. I told you guys this, and I'll share it on the podcast here, is for whatever reason, like, I mean, it had good racing. It had at the end there, you had Chase running down Larson to see if he can win. Like, it had drama with a lot of the playoff guys having some big time issues. Blaney, Logano, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. for a while there had issues, but it was just not. Like, I don't know. It just like that race could have, I gave it a C. That race could have easily either been a B+, or there were some parts of that race where it was a D.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was odd to me. And so I graded it right in the middle. I gave it a C, which is weird because the first Kansas race, I looked back and I gave that an A. So I don't know what happened yesterday. I think maybe I was expecting a little bit more out of it. I didn't see Jeff Gluck's poll, and I'll look at that once you guys start.
I just looked it up. Was Kansas a good race? Out of 11,523 votes so far, 50% or 54% said yes, 46% said no. So really, right down the middle.
Yeah, it's essentially right down the middle. So a lot of people had the same thoughts. I don't know. We're going into Martinsville that I have super, super, super high expectations for.
Yeah.
I mean, not only is it a short track, not only does it produce that bump and run that we love,
the bump and run,
but it's also the penultimate. I can't say that word.
Penultimate
race to find out who's going to the
second
championship.
to last race of the season.
There you go. That's what happens
terms.
when I try being fancy. I can't pronounce it. So it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to next week, and maybe that had something to do with it as well. That I'm just, it's one of those races. It's a bridge race. It's a gap race. It's getting us to where we want to be.
How about you, Eric? What'd you think about it? You were fresh off the road. You just had gotten home literally as the command was being called. So what did you think about the race?
Yeah. I turned the race on and the first couple caution laps were going around before the green. And, I sat down and I watched, that first stage, and, I was kind of, I wouldn't say tired from being on the road, like you said, in the trip, but just caught off guard, having to just get home, sit down, get in front of the TV to watch the race. So I'm watching the race, and like Matt said, it was kind of choppy. You'd have a good portion where the racing was, strong and there's battles. And then there were times where it's like, man, what's going on right now? Like, I can't seem to, get into this race with my full attention. I ended up, before stage 2 ended, I ended up going out, running out for food and coming back. but I graded it right in the middle too. Just like Matt said, like there was parts of it where I'm like, damn, this is a B race. But then there were parts I could give this a D. This is nothing really going on. It's what we expected kind of going into it. Once again, 550 package, lapped up to 15th, 14th place. You knew that's going to go. Someone's going to run away with it.
Yeah.
And it was okay. But like Matt said, I think I was already into Martinsville in my head. I think I was just already wanting to get there. And, you know, in my records, I'll get to a portion of why I think the race ended up the way it did, not getting a better grade. Because I do remember, I thought Kansas was a better race when they went there earlier, and it was just it had glimpses of greatness. I felt like amongst the battles, there were some pretty intense battles. But overall, I just got to give it a C. I just got to go in the middle. Like, and even like Luck's poll, like, yeah, some people were going to love that and some people are going to hate it. I think it depends on who your driver was as well. You know, but overall, as far as like, if I had a new race fan and I wanted to show them racing, and I said, come over and we'll watch the race on Sunday, I think they would have left like, this is what you want me to get excited over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just that's the way I thought of it. You know, I wouldn't want that to be the first race that I show a new fan.
No, I get it. I think we're all kind of on the same page. I gave it a B-. I had high hopes for Kansas, though. I was really excited to go to Kansas because, like you guys said, the spring was a good race. I don't really remember exactly what made it a good race this far away from it, you know, in the season. But I do remember, like, oh, yeah, that was a good one. Usually Kansas is a really good one that I enjoy. It's one of the better intermediate tracks we go to. I think Kansas and Homestead, like this package was made for Kansas. And honestly, I thought it was a good race, but I couldn't focus on it. And I think like maybe I was the problem because we saw a lot of battles for the lead. I mean, we had 23 lead changes for 8 different drivers, a lot of drama with playoff drivers, a lot of turmoil, kind of like the stuff you want to see, like Blaney, Busch, Keselowski. They're all having issues. It all kind of screwed up where they were running in the playoff picture. Like that was enjoyable to watch, but like I just wasn't pulled in like I normally am. And I don't know if it was the red flag in the beginning where it kind of like fired me down and then I started playing on my phone. But like I had my phone in my hand a lot of the day and I just wasn't into the race. And I don't know if it was my fault or if it was the race's fault. Like you guys said, like it seems like the world of Twitter is split down the middle too, though. So maybe it wasn't me. I don't know. It could have been the weather. It was kind of dreary on TV. It was dreary here in Pennsylvania. It was raining and stuff. Like I don't know. I was just kind of tired. And like you guys are drinking all weekend. I didn't drink on Saturday or anything. I think I had one bourbon and root beer, which is the delicious drink, by the way. I highly suggest it. But yeah, I was just kind of underwhelmed. Like you said, could have given it a D, could have given it a B-. I went with a B-, just giving it the benefit of the doubt, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I have another theory about maybe why as well, and it's something that we're going to get into in the pickle lane segment.
Okay, yeah, and that's why I put in the pickle lane. Like maybe we'll get into it though.
Yeah,
that's where the pickle lane came. Little tease for about 20 minutes from now. But you guys want to jump into the checkers and records then?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, I was gonna say my records kind of pertains to why I think the race was kind of shitty. So,
all right, give us your records first. We'll go backwards. Give the records first, and then give us the bright side of the checkers.
Yeah, I wrecked Mother Nature because I do believe that was the sole factor in what we saw on the racetrack. I saw Tyler Reddick tweet about it too, and he's talking about those wind gusts, man, like coming out of turns. He said that the wind was so strong it lifted the rear tires up off of his car. So
I know when Austin Dillon got into Blaney, like they kind of blamed the wind for that. Even I think Blaney tapped the wall by himself earlier on in the race, and it was because of those giant wind gusts.
I think it had something to do with Newman spinning around, losing his car
Yeah,
too.
I mean, when does Ryan Newman lose a car out of a turn? Like never.
Right.
You know, like
Same thing with Kyle Busch when his tire went down. I think all the tire issues,
yeah.
Because of the wind, I think, however they were set up, whatever the adjustments were, they didn't take into consideration how much the wind was going to force those cars up the racetrack. They were saying if you were on the bottom, you couldn't keep your car on the bottom. You
slid right up.
Slid up. So like, that's why, I mean, the high line is a line, it gets you around there. You got to, have the balls to run that. But that was the preferred lane because the wind was less of a factor already being up high next to the wall. And, you don't see those tires go down the way that they went down during the race. I just think it was the setups and the wind and the temperature and the dreariness that just really affected the setups on these cars. And honest to God, it was kind of fun to see that because I think those crew chiefs and car chiefs were scrambling to try to go, what do we do with these adjustments? Is that wind going to stay? Is it going to pick up?
Yeah.
And I know the broadcast that actually it was picking up as the day, as that little storm when we had that weather delay come through there, it ended up getting, windier as it went on. And, I just do think that Mother Nature played a factor in why I think we saw what we saw out there. So I had to wreck good old Mother Nature, not for rain for once,
for wind.
For those gusts.
I think you're right too, because listening to the scanners, a lot of drivers were having handling issues where usually you hear like, oh, I'm too tight. They were way too loose and they were trying to tighten their cars up like all day long. I know, Ryan Blaney's crew chief, was on the morning drive earlier today and he was saying the same thing. Like they were just struggling to get the car adjusted to deal with all that. And plus you have those giant spoilers on the back too. It's like having a parachute back there, Like you'd watch some of those guys on restarts and they just fall straight back because they didn't have the push behind them,
Oh, yeah.
But how about your checkers? What did you think was good during the race?
I gave my checkers to Chase Elliott. He impressed me yesterday. Not on the racetrack, just like his mentality, his demeanor, his just drive to win.
Yeah.
He didn't have to race as hard as he raced yesterday with all the issues that went on with the tires, like we're talking about, the unknown too, just getting, blown around by that and seeing some of these playoff contenders tag the wall themselves, not even getting into anybody.
Yeah.
And he kept on it. He's like, I'm not just gonna, play to lose. And, he went after Larson at the end there. I know Junior kind of hinted at it a little bit and was kind of playing coach up in the booth and wondering, hey, Chase, like, dude, you're plus 35 right now. Let's, bring this thing home.
Yeah.
You bring home right here. You're golden. Don't push this trying to win, and you end up having one of those tires go down and now you're out. You know what I mean? Take that car home in second place. And yeah, he did end up, backing off, but I like the fact that he did say, screw it. I'm going for the win.
For it, yeah.
And he went for it and tried. Once he realized, he was getting, a little bit,
he tagged the wall a couple times.
Yeah, I was gonna say before he started tagging the wall, he was catching up. He had enough laps to catch up.
I told you guys. I told you guys. I'm officially pacing.
Oh yeah.
I was wearing out the hardwood in my living room, just going back and forth. I was nervous there until he tagged the wall.
Something to your point, Eric, though, like he could have just taken an easy second without trying too hard. And like you're right. So right now in the playoff picture, he is 34 points to the good. Ryan Blaney is in fifth, down 1 point. Coming into this race, Blaney was 17 points to good, and Elliott was 8 points out, looking in fifth place. So they kind of just swapped places, and it was because Chase kept himself clean and got a nice second place finish at the end of the day. Even though he tagged the wall, like he was still going for it, but he didn't have to.
I'll say this too. All the all the shit that's gone down between Chase and Harvick. Chase was battling Harvick. He had to get around him to get into second yesterday. And I honestly thought, like, oh my God, he's going to do it again.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I mean, Harvick let him go. He didn't give him an issue. And you got to give props to him. I mean, he could have made that a really, really big problem for Chase, just literally destroyed his season, and he didn't. So I gotta give Harvick the props there as well.
All right. Well, while you're giving props, you want to give us your checkers and wreckers?
Yeah. So my checkers, I have given it to people who have given the command to fire engines before. So I have to give it to Eric Stonestreet. He's an actor from a popular sitcom Modern Family. He's from Kansas. He's a huge Kansas fan, huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. And,
he loves the state of Kansas, man. He is like the biggest champion of Kansas.
Yep. Him and Clint Boyer are good buddies because of their connection to just being from Kansas.
Yeah.
And my man Eric Stonestreet just dug down deep and just gave the command to fire engines like you wouldn't believe. So I had to give it to him there. That's how you do it. Go back and watch it. I'm sure you could find it on Twitter. That's how you give the command to fire engines.
Absolutely. And he's a true NASCAR fan too. You know, we see a lot of celebrities here plug in their new Fox show and stuff, like Jason Biggs plugging Cherries Wild, and then gives a sad command like, "Oh, drivers, start your engines." Eric Stonestreet, he wasn't there to promote anything. He was just there to give the command, and he did a hell of a job.
He was there to promote the state of Kansas.
He was, yeah. He's like, "We got corn. Come on down. Watch Patrick Mahomes." You know?
Yeah. So that was my checkers. My wreckers. It's got to go to Kyle Busch, man. He just didn't have the race I expected from him at all. And
especially coming off a win earlier on in the season at this track.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. And I remember, just a year, 2 years ago, not last year, but I guess 2 years ago, 2019, and even before then, he was like the mile and a half king. Like, you couldn't touch him on mile and a half. And all of JGR just is not that with this 550 package. But he specifically, he couldn't stay off the wall. He was in the wall a few times. All of that being said, he is still +1 in the playoff picture. He does have a shot at it, but that's obviously not the buffer that you want to have going into a crazy Martinsville. So we'll see, but it's just not what I expected out of him this weekend for sure. And he had a meltdown on the radio. He just, at one point, he was just yelling.
Like unhinged.
He got stuck behind Bubba Wallace. Not even stuck. I don't know what was happening. He was just running behind Bubba Wallace, and it seemed like it was just those two on a straightaway, and I didn't see Bubba Wallace doing anything wrong.
He was just riding in his lane.
Kyle was just literally not even making words, just yelling, and it sounded like a madman, but I don't know.
That's why I brought it up last week. Like, if I was on Kyle Busch's crew and he was acting like that on the radio, I'd be like, well, you want to know what? Like, screw you, buddy, but I don't know. My checkers is going to the brother of your wreckers, Mr. Kurt Busch and Chip Ganassi Racing. Kurt had a great day yesterday. He was up front all the time. Like, I don't know if he had a winning car, but he definitely had a competitive car. And I just really enjoyed seeing him run up front and in the mix. I thought it would have been cool if he could have pulled off a win somehow and got Chip one last win in the Cup Series before the team shut down. But yeah, I got to give it to him and just Ganassi for continuing to put fast cars out on track, even though they're literally closing their doors in 2 races, 2 weeks from now. So, just giving the whole organization over there, my checkers probably for the season, they've had a great season so far for the team that they have over there. My wreckers, in line with Eric, Rain and myself, I know it's unavoidable, but that quick rain delay screwed me up. I alluded to during my race grades. And I couldn't get off my phone where like the end of stage 1 was going on. I'm like, is this the end of stage 2? I don't know. I was checking fantasy real quick to make sure my fantasy lineup was set and stuff. Like, yeah, and I was even thinking, I'm like, man, I have to go back and watch all the highlights because like I don't even know what's going on. Thankfully, I did go back and watch the highlights, and I got a whole list of highlights to talk about right now. Highlights for Kansas, of course, we talked about Kyle Larson breaking Jeff Gordon's record for the most laps led for 36 races season. Say that 10 times fast. Oh boy. Chase
You couldn't say it once.
couldn't even say it once. I got mush mouth today. Like Eric said, Chase had a solid run. One of the only playoff drivers that didn't have an issue. Even though he did tag the wall, didn't affect his finish, and built a nice points cushion. Like I said, he went in to this race 1 point below the cut line, and he left like 30 some points above the cut line, sitting in second right now. So he got himself a nice little pad going into Martinsville. Again, though, you never know what could happen. One cut tire during a green flag run, you come down pit road and you're 2 laps down very quickly at Martinsville, especially.
Yep. That's the problem. About
batteries goes. I can see that a Hendrick battery going.
Yeah,
don't you dare!
Don't
you dare
drop a battery. Yeah, you don't want to lose a battery at Martinsville. You're going a couple laps down, buddy.
Yeah,
no,
so
dude, you're going 10 laps down.
I don't want to put that into the atmosphere and
you already did. You can't take it back.
But that's the crazy thing about Martinsville being this cutoff race before the championship 4. Like, it's very easy to have a bad day at Martinsville.
So Chase Elliott won at Martinsville last year. That was the day after I got married, and Chase going to the championship was the happiest I was that whole weekend. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding.
Come into the screen, just blast it back.
Just kidding. I so very happily married.
So here's the thing. This Martinsville race then is on your anniversary. Is your wife cool with that? Or
oh yeah, dude. Yeah, we're doing our little weekend getaway. We'll be home. Actually, we're doing Friday, Saturday, so we'll actually be home Saturday night.
Okay.
So I'll have time to recover for Sunday evening's race or afternoon's race. Yep.
All right,
oh yeah, buddy. Trust me, I've got that all taken care of.
Just as long as you're not in the doghouse on Monday.
No, we're celebrating early.
All right. Let's see. Kurt got my checkers. I already told you about that. Denny Hamlin, the strongest of the Gibbs cars, but not as impressive as he's been in the playoffs this year. Sorry, what do you guys think about just the Gibbs drivers in general, but especially Denny Hamlin? I mean, yeah, he had a top 5 finish, but he was never really competing for the lead, I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like
year.
Yeah.
5's the top 5. I mean, Denny's kind of admitted that, he's like, we've never found the speed to get up there and win these races, but he's always been up front. Now he's usually up there battling for the lead and battling Larson and Chase and the likes of those guys. But I could definitely see this being a sloppier of the playoff races for Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean JGR. I kind of touched on it with my wreckers. I mean, I wrecked Kyle Busch specifically, but they all had problems. Sans Denny Hamlin. So they got to figure it out because there's 3 of them. There's 3 spots left, and there's 3 of them fighting for those spots. So it's gonna be really, really interesting.
I tell you what, someone that I thought could have won yesterday, someone that I actually thought could have beaten Kyle Larson, William Byron, another great run.
Mm-hmm.
I feel terrible for him that he didn't advance into this round of the playoffs because he's rattled off a 6th place finish yesterday after having issues on pit road too, coming back from that. 2nd place last week. He was in the top 5 at Charlotte. Like, he's just having a really nice playoff season so far compared to the rest. I mean, the whole season he's been really good, but just this season in general compared to last year, like
he just had a couple bad runs that knocked him out of the playoffs, but like literally it was just a couple of races. All the other ones, it seems like he's put together a really good playoff run. It just it didn't add up at the right time, it seems like.
No, and that's the unfortunate part about this playoff system. You got to be money every single race. But I'm just really impressed with William Byron this season, especially compared to last season, where I mean, yeah, he won Daytona's cutoff race to get into the playoffs last year. But before that, I was a little worried that like, oh man, what if Byron doesn't win and he's out of a ride soon? Like I figured they would give him a little bit more time to develop, but I feel like he was getting really close to that point where either you succeed or you get dropped, you know? And this season, he's cemented himself for the next couple of years. I know I didn't mention it, but Liberty signed on with Hendrick for, I think, a 5-year extension. I know Byron's contract is for another year or two, but Mr. Hendrick even said himself he wants to keep Byron in the fold for a long, long time. So I just, another great run from him. He gets all my props for this one.
I mean, William Byron was kind of feast or famine during the regular season as well. He would have stretches of dominance and just great. And then he would have a stretch of just DNF, 33rd, you know, just unfortunate luck. And then he would go back to running a few good races where, okay, he makes his way back up there. Then and he has unfortunate, things happen as far as the playoffs where, it wasn't even his fault that he got taken out of the playoffs.
No.
There's a certain, number 8 that, it was involved in that. And then this week you see a certain number 3 involved in, the number 12 car. So I don't know what's going on over there in that camp from that team, but, unfortunate circumstances. And, I think we'll come back and have a good career there in that 24 car.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back on it, I'm not even going to give Whitey the opportunity to try to fight back and defend his RCR.
I wasn't going to fight. I was just going to say, I think William Byron's a future champion. That's all I was going to say. Like, he really is. He's a future champion, I think.
Yeah, he is. And so is Reddick. So just buck up, buddy. It's
I didn't say anything.
I know. So, no, what I was going to say was, we were talking about how strong Hamlin's been, how just consistent he's been all season long. If you guys remember back, William Byron was Mr. Consistency.
Like top fives, rattling them off.
He had like 10 or 11 top 10 straights or whatever it was, something like that. I might be getting the stats wrong, but
10 top 5, to be honest with you.
You know what it might have been?
That's what it was. He had like
Yeah, and then it just, like you said, he kind of dropped off and then came back on. But he was really, really super consistent in the beginning part of the year.
Where's Penske at? Like, I know the 12's been running well, but like, man, I mean, I know the whole Brad thing going on. I could see that, but he's been running decent. But what's up with that 22, man? Like, I'm grateful for it. Don't get me wrong. It was my checkers that he kind of was forced into a must-win situation. I do not want to see him win another one, but like, you got to question what's going on with that team over there. Like, what's 22 car? Like he's not even relevant, which is weird to say.
Well, you know what? I thought he was pretty relevant yesterday, though. I will give him that. He was running the top 5 for most of the race. His pit crew screwed him, though. They didn't get that lug nut on. You could see, like, I don't know if you guys remember that pit stop. He made a green flag pit stop, and as he was pulling away, the guy was hitting the last lug nut, and like he got dragged by the car a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's not on there. He's got to come back. That kind of screwed up his day. Still got a nice top 10 out of it. But he needed some stage points. He needed to capitalize on Blaney's misfortune because he was in last place and he's still in last place in the playoffs. But I don't know. Penske as a whole organization, kind of non-existent except for Ryan Blaney and like a little bit of Logano here and there, but nowhere near what they were last year or in years past. So, but you could say the same thing for Ford across the board too. So like, I don't know. Another guy I was really not impressed with, Martin Truex Jr. not performing to the expectations that I have for Martin Truex Jr. in any season, let alone this season.
You know what though?
We got 2 tracks
on Martinsville that's all I'll say. I have stats on him. That it's super impressive what he does at Martinsville coming up.
Here's the thing, though, and this is going to make our gambling segment hard. Any one of these 8 drivers can win Martinsville. Like they're all great at Martinsville. So I guess, I mean, that's what comes with the territory. These are the top 8 drivers in the series. So Kyle Busch, like we said earlier, he had his issues all day long. Starting in stage 1 with some wind. got himself into the wall, finished multiple laps down. Just not the day you want to see out of Kyle Busch, losing his mind on the radio too. Those are funny. If you haven't seen those clips, head on over to Twitter and Instagram. If there's just one where he's like like laughing like a madman, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Keselowski got screwed by Newman spinning out right after making a green flag stop. Matt, I think you had a tinfoil hat on that one. I don't know if you were serious on that or what, but give us your tinfoil hat.
What did I say? I said, I think, so Newman spun out.
Yeah, as Keselowski was coming back from a green flag stop that put him, I think, 2 laps down or something like that.
That's what it was. Like if that caution came out like I don't know, a couple laps beforehand, Keselowski would have caught a break. So I just think that was Newman sticking it to Keselowski because Keselowski's stealing his job next year.
Yeah. And you want to know what? There's no word on what Ryan Newman's doing next season either. We'll keep you updated if we hear anything. But so far, there's like no rumors on him.
He's gonna be the 4th host on Bump and Run podcast.
Hey, you want to know what? He could come on here every week and talk about the rescue ranch and tell us how his ranch is doing during retirement. I don't care. Get a driver's analysis. Let's start tweeting at him.
Doesn't go on Twitter.
And like we mentioned earlier, the last piece of highlights I have: Blaney gotten taken out by Austin Dillon. Had a solid top 10 car all day long. Got put into the wall by the 3. I don't know what happened there, if it was wind or what, but that car was messed up. I couldn't believe the wheel, how it was bent up into that. Like
on that was just, it was bad.
Insane. Even like Steve Letarte in the booth, he's like, there's no way they could get that off there. You just got to take it to the garage at that point. You know, there's no hope in even trying. But that's all the highlights I have for this week in Kansas. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Nope.
All right. Last segment for Kansas then. Here on the Bumper Run podcast, everyone loves to talk about the winner. We like to talk, bless you, we like to talk about the last place person. And this week it was Chad Fincham. He had himself some handling issues in his MBM Motorsports car. It took him out of the race. It was his 6th Cup start. He has had a career best finish of 33rd at both Bristol last season and Nashville this season. Got a 40th place finish this week. Not getting close to that 33rd. So unfortunate for Chad Fincham. Good luck in the future with your next race, whenever that may be. And I got one pickle lane, one simple one. The choose cone is out, the pickle lane segments where I give you guys a topic. You get to choose how you answer, what side of the choose cone you believe. And the question is the season too long? Do you think the NASCAR season's too long? Matt, you're shaking your head yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I gave it some thought when I read this, and yeah, I mean it is. And let me just give the precursor of, before anyone gets all up in the air. Like I love NASCAR. I love it. Obviously, I've said this in the past. We love it enough where we're doing a podcast about it.
Yeah.
But there's still sometimes I just think it's a little too much. And I'll just say this. I think that they should shave 6 races off. Give us an even 30 races. That way the season ends in late September instead of early to mid-November.
Yeah.
That does a couple things. One, that allows for freeing up the schedule a little bit, for the schedule makers to get a little bit more creative instead of having to worry about the tracks that might get into the cold weather, bad weather towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Gives them the flexibility to kind of play around a little bit if we're ending in September. I mean, up here in Pennsylvania, we're still in the 80s in late September. So it kind of frees them up there. Also, we don't get too far into the football season, right? So that way we don't have to worry about going up against the NFL on Sundays. I know that absolutely drives down the ratings.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing too, is during the bulk of the season in NASCAR, that's what's on Sundays. there's nothing else on, so it gets my full undivided attention. But because me being a huge football fan, like I'm sure a lot of NASCAR fans are, that if a race is dull like it was yesterday, I've got one eye on the other screen. Yeah, you either got a second screen set up or you're absolutely just flipping the channel over. So I think if we're shortening that season up a little bit, we're not going up against the NFL as much as we are now. And I just, like I said, it's too much of a good thing is still too much. Yeah. So I see no problem. I mean, we've said it before, IndyCar, their season's 16, 17 races long, something like that. It's in the teens. It's a short season and they still have plenty of fans. Now I don't want to go that short.
No, that's outrageous.
If we shaved off 6 races, I think we'd be onto something. We'd be okay. Go ahead. I'll let you guys kind of take it from there.
How about you, Eric? Do you think the race season is too long, or are you happy with the way it is? Or would you want more?
See, I could agree with Matt in some of the things that he's saying as far as like the schedule wise. I think it would benefit that for sure as far as weather and planning for track. Too, like, if you look at other sports, for me, like baseball, they, 162 games, like some of those games are kind of pointless, whatever, and even hockey, they went down and eliminated a bunch of games so that the regular season becomes a little bit more detrimental to what happens to you in the playoffs. Yeah. It puts a little pressure on those games. So maybe similar to that, where like I could see, hey, besides the super speedways in Daytona and Talladega, because they are only like super speedway races, if you have multiple dates, get rid of them. Everyone gets one race. You know what I mean? Eliminate the multiple races. Now, I'm not talking about if you run like, the Charlotte, and then you run the Roval.
Yeah, that's different.
Fine. That's fine. But don't run Pocono and then run Pocono again. You know what I mean? Like, if you could eliminate the doubles, I think right then and there, you shorten it enough, like Matt said, to maybe either A, give the drivers Mother's Day weekend off again or another weekend off, or you keep the season shortened, which, okay, now it's like I'm week 10 into the season. And normally week 10, you're like, okay, like if I have a bad race, no big deal, I can make it up. Well, now if you take 6 races out, now you're like, well, now I can't. I don't have enough to make up. And like, not that every week isn't important to these drivers and these race teams, but they know when they can. There is some wiggle room. So maybe it'll get rid of that wiggle room, which would cause like, I know we talk about it in an individual race. We have a imminent rain coming. Yeah. How that causes the drivers and the racing to gear up. And it gets crazy. It gets intense. Yes. So like, what if the whole season had that feeling to it? Like, oh shit. Now we don't like, it's almost like there's an imminent rain coming, which would be the end of the season. And now instead of 30 races, 36 races to do this, now we only have this many. Now each race, the drivers are going to go all out because they know, oh, whatever, I'm going to Kansas next week or I'm going here. I'll make that up. I'm good there. No, if you're not good there, you have to bring that car home the best that you could bring that car home. And I think the racing all around might get better from a shortened schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at college football, man. You've got 12 games and they all matter. Like, okay, again, Notre Dame fan, they have one loss. They have no shot at getting into the playoff now. So every game counts. That's, you shorten the season and you get more bang for your buck, essentially. And I think there's an answer to it. I don't think we'll ever see it because, what drives everything is money. Yeah. The TV markets are never going to, or the TV channels, Fox and NBC, the partners are never going to give up any races. So
that's the thing. They want the content.
I don't think we'll ever see it, but you never know.
I'm conflicted. I know I posed this question, but I'm a little conflicted because I love NASCAR. Obviously, we're doing a podcast about it. I mean, my room is covered in NASCAR toys and whatnot here, and I'm a 33-year-old man. I know there's a lot of adult men in my same boat too, but I just, when I get to this point in the season, even though the playoffs are exciting and everything, I get a little burnt out. And I don't know if I want to get rid of any races. I think we need just a couple off weeks sprinkled in just to give a little reset here now. And I'm a little nervous because next season we have one off week the entire season. That's intense to me. I don't know. Would I want to see 6 races off the schedule? Absolutely not. That's too many. If anything, maybe 2 or 3. You know,
even if they're doubles.
Yeah, even if they're doubles, get rid of 2 or 3, but not. I don't mind going back to tracks. You know, as long as the races are good. You know,
but that's what we're getting at, though.
Well, yeah,
like they're not.
That's
Kansas,
true.
I gave an A earlier in the year, and yesterday I gave it a C. A C isn't a bad grade.
But here's the thing. Kansas,
I was being a little generous with that C, to be honest.
Here's the thing, though. Like, Kansas could have ran today, and it could have been sunny and hot, and we could have saw a great race. You know, like you can't.
Yeah, weather's a factor.
You can't say one bad race, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, if you constantly go to that same track and you're seeing awful races, like, I mean, let's face it, our home track, a lot of people would say Pocono puts on bad racing. I think it puts on great racing. I think it's a different type of racing. Indy, you know, the Brickyard. For years, people were saying, like, Indy sucked. It did.
That's why we went to
the road course. So, like, I could see, like, if it's consistently a bad race, yeah, drop it from the schedule. Do I say get rid of every two race tracks? No, I don't think so. Because, like, think about how disappointed we were when they got rid of the second Pocono, you know, like thinking about it this year, you know? So I don't know if the season's too long. I just feel like we're on too long of a stretch, if that makes sense. Where maybe we take a break in between, you know, week 3, or no, like round 3 of the play, or round 2 of the playoffs, or round 3 of the playoffs, something.
I think if we,
you stated earlier, because I brought that up too in another show, and you had actually a good point where momentum. You're in the playoffs.
That's true, because
you don't want anyone to take a break during your play. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. I think we brought it up. Should there be a weekend off in between Daytona's cutoff race and the beginning of the playoffs? And that, I think, no, just because you're coming off Daytona, that's like you're firing off on all cylinders. You're ready to go, and then you immediately go into Darlington.
Yeah, but what if you have a Texas and a Kansas like we had, where they've been the same race, kind of duds, kind of sleeping, and now you have an off week before you go to Martinsville?
That's true.
Fucked.
That's true. I mean, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, no one's coming back after that. Like,
yeah, no, that's true. Hey, if you're listening at home, you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments. I want to know what you guys think about this, because I mean, I could see it either way. I could see us definitely benefiting from getting rid of a couple races. I don't know if I want that. I'm just a little burnt out on NASCAR right now. I'm kind of looking forward.
That's the answer.
I'm just
right
burnt
there.
out.
That's exactly okay. So that's what, and I was gonna bring it back because I thought about that earlier. It did every year at this time. By the time we hit the 3rd stage, I'm like kind of ready for the season to be over.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, obviously, like I said, I love NASCAR, but too much is too much still. And I'm a little burnt out. I'm ready. I want to see what's going to happen in Martinsville, and I want to see what's going to happen, who's going to be our champion.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, Texas and Kansas, like, I could have done without them.
I think we could have went right to Martinsville and then Phoenix. Right after that, boom, go right there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
You know what, though? I'm going to give a weird analogy, but when I was in my final year at college, I couldn't wait to graduate. I was like, I'm just over this. I'm done. I want to get it over with, and I want to get into the real world. I want to start a job. I want to get out of here. And then, like, 6 months later, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back to college, man. This sucks, you know? And I feel like this is going to happen with the NASCAR season. I'm like, man, I can't wait to see the champion.
Will.
I can't wait to end it and get a little break. And then in 3 weeks after Phoenix, I'm like, man, I can't wait for Daytona. I'm sick of not having racing.
I think the season ends perfectly where we go right into the holidays. And we're all really super busy around the holidays. It keeps us busy.
It's a nice distraction.
Yeah. And then as soon as January rolls around and we're like a month and a half out, I start getting that itch. I'm like,
Yep.
I'm ready. Let's go. Give me my NASCAR.
That's when you're like, all right, when's the Chili Bowl happening? When's 24 hours of Daytona? When's Speed Weeks? Like, let's get this shit going, you know?
Yeah. So it won't hit you until January, but once it hits you, it's like a freight train. Like it hits you and you're ready. But yeah, right now I'm ready to see how this season ends and go from there.
All right, and we will
mention. Sorry, not to keep dragging this on, but not to mention, I mean, we have the next gen car looming next year too, which is going to be super, super interesting. And and you know, I'm almost looking at next year already too.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting in every sense of the word too. Like it's exciting.
We have no idea how it's
nerve-wracking.
gonna work.
Like, yeah, we don't know. So it's gonna be great just to see what happens. I don't know if the racing will be great. Hopefully it is. Apparently, the package on paper is pretty similar to what we have now, with a little bit of changes and tweaks. We'll see what happens. All I know is we will see what happens this weekend in Martinsville, and for the first time in what feels like forever, trucks back on track. We got a truck and Xfinity doubleheader Saturday. Truck's going to be on track 1 p.m. on FS1 for the United Rentals 200. 6 p.m. Xfinity takes the track on NBCSN for the Dead on Tools 250. And of course, Sunday, Cup takes Martinsville 2 p.m. for the Xfinity 500 on NBC, also being simulcast on Peacock, which I think we're going to have to get used to that, because I think some races are going to Peacock exclusively next year in coming years. I know IndyCar is doing something along those lines. And, I forgot, we saw history yesterday, the last NASCAR race on NBCSN. Of course, NBCSN going away at the end of the year, and NASCAR going to be switching over to USA Network next year, so don't forget about that. And we saw the last 750 or 550 package on a mile and a half. Those cars are gone. Moving to short tracks. The rest of the year, Martinsville, your top 10, according to Bob Pockers' math. Larson and Elliott, your front row. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., the Gibbs boys teaming up on row 2. Logano and Keselowski, Team Penske on row number 3. And Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney going to be duking it out. Row number 4, that is your top 8, your playoff drivers lineup for Martinsville. Matt, you got the stats we need. Should we go over, we did some driver prop bets last week. Should we go over who won and who lost those driver prop bets?
Real quick.
All right, so last week the prop bets were Almirola and Buescher. All three of us picked Buescher. We all won. Harvick versus Reddick. Eric picked Harvick. Me and Matt picked Reddick. Eric making the right decision there. In fact, I would have won some decent money doing 8 driver parlays and 5 driver parlays. I hit every single one of them right except for Reddick. He did not get it done. Chase versus Blaney. We all picked Blaney and we all lost, which is crazy because I picked Chase to win the race like minutes after that segment last week too. Don't know what we were thinking there. Blaney was running really good. I think Eric persuaded us on that one. Logano versus Brad last week. Eric picked Brad. Me and Matt picked Logano. Me and Matt won. Denny versus Kyle Busch. We all picked Denny. You never bet against Denny Hamlin in the playoffs, and he won. He beat Kyle Busch head to head. Byron and Truex. We all picked Byron. He won. And the one I threw last minute was Suarez versus Briscoe, and Suarez, we all picked him, and he beat Briscoe head to head. Those are the driver prop bets. Matt, do you want to give us the props for this week, and we'll give you our picks?
Yes, sir. So I am going to just stick with playoff drivers because there's probably 10 or 11 in here, but some of them it's like, nah, you know what I mean? So we'll stick with the playoff drivers just because we are short on some time here. So the first one is Chase Elliott versus Denny Hamlin. Who is going to finish better? Chase Elliott is the favorite at -120, and Denny is a +100. So I think, just taking my emotions out of it, Denny at +100, I'm taking Denny because of those odds.
He's the underdog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And like I just said 2 seconds ago, you never bet against Denny in the playoffs. Head to head, give me Denny Hamlin. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, once you said Denny was the underdog there, it's Denny all day for me.
Again, just like last week, it was Brad versus Joey. They did it again. Joey, the underdog. I'm sorry. It is a dead even push. They're both minus 110. Honestly, to me, this is a toss up. I am going to lean towards Brad, though.
Really? I'm leaning towards Logano. I wouldn't touch this bet. I think I even said it last week. I wouldn't touch this bet just because they're so close to the way they've been running and the rates of failure over at Penske. But I'm going Logano.
I'm going Brad. I just think Brad there at Martinsville.
Yeah.
I think he still has something to prove. Like I said with Harvick, that little chip on his shoulder, I think he's still going to give it his all. And that 22 team, yes, they've been consistent, but I don't think they're going to get it done against that too.
Yeah, they've also had issues too, and those things usually pile up. So we'll see. This one's interesting, and okay, it's MTJ, Martin Truex Jr. versus Kyle Larson. Truex is the favorite at minus 120. Kyle Larson's a plus 100 underdog. I'm personally going with Martin Truex here. The guy is simply dominant at Martinsville. I think Kyle Larson isn't really racing for much. I mean, I know he wasn't this past weekend at Kansas, and he still won, but I think there's other guys that are probably better than Larson is at Martinsville, and Truex is probably the best we have. So I'm taking Truex here.
Yeah, I'm going MTJ as well. He's just a veteran presence. He's won there before. He, this is his package, like we've stated previously, in that 750. And I'm pretty sure Kyle Larson never won here at Martinsville. But he might be wanting to look for that first win, starting up front again, with the math and how everything works out. But man, MTJ, it's Martinsville.
Mm-hmm.
It's so the gambler's fallacy. You guys ever take a logic and reasoning class in college or anything like that? There's this thing. It's called the gambler's fallacy. It's basically essentially if you flip a coin 100 times, it has the same odds of landing on heads or tails either time. But people will see like, oh, well, it's been 7 heads in a row. It's got to be tails the next time. That's what I'm thinking right now because Kyle Larson has 3 wins in a row. It's got to be Martin Truex Jr. the next time. He won in the spring, but Kyle Larson came in 5th. And for that reason, I'm going with the hot shoe. I think Kyle Larson is taking home a grandfather clock. I think he's beating out Martin Truex Jr. at least in Martinsville.
Interesting. Okay, guys, last one. Ryan Blaney versus Kyle Busch. Blaney, the favorite at minus 125. Kyle Busch, the plus 105 underdog.
This is
Blaney runs. You're going with Kyle. Blaney runs really well at Martinsville. I'm going with Blaney.
Who do you think came in first between the two in the springtime?
Blaney
came in 11th. Kyle Busch came in 10th.
Okay.
We're going into the playoffs though. Blaney just needs some points to kind of advance. Busch is 1 point ahead. I don't know. This is a real tough one. Who's the favorite on this? Is there a favorite?
Blaney minus 125.
He had bad luck could affect you the next. I don't know. Kyle Busch has been just screaming on the radio the last couple weeks how bad his cars are. I'm going Blaney. Okay. I feel weird about it, though. I feel like Kyle Busch is going to have a great race. I feel like Gibbs cars at short tracks are just going to be lights out,
This is time for the Toyotas to step up. They had the 2 550s. There you go, Chevy. Have your good times in the 550 package. Now come the 750s. This is where Gibbs tends to run really well and dominate. Yeah. So I'm sticking with the Gibbs guys.
Okay. There you go. I hope everyone takes our bets and wins a lot of money. You remember also, you guys can parlay those as few as you want. You can individually bet. So there's a lot of options on DraftKings. Those lines were provided by DraftKings to avoid any legality problems. So those are your stats. And then speaking of stats, I have the typical stats that I give every week. We are going to Martinsville. I give the stats from the last 4 races ran at Martinsville. So we'll start with the wins. Martin Truex Jr., guys, again, dominant here. He won the playoff race in 2019. The following year, after we got back from COVID in the summer of 20 last year, he won again. Then Chase, of course, won at Martinsville last year to get into the championship and eventually win that championship. And then again earlier this year, the spring race in May, Martin Truex Jr. won there. The average finishes inside the top 10. This is where I said Blaney's sneaky good here. He's got the best average finish inside the top 10 over the last 4 races at Martinsville with the 5th place average finish. Yeah, 5th place average finish. Logano with the 5.3, MTJ with the 6.3. He must have not finished a race or something to drop that average a little bit, or just had a bad outing. And then Larson with the 7th place average finish. But what the note on Larson is that those are only out of 2 starts, because he did miss last year because of being suspended. So that's just something to think about. And then our favorite stat, the top 5 drivers with the most points accrued in the last 4 races at Martinsville. Martin Truex Jr., your dominant one with 192 total points there. Blaney with 180 total points there. Logano with 169. Dennis Hamlin with 154, and then Chase with 150 total points in the last 4 races. So those are your stats. Time to pick them, boys.
All right. To review our picks from last week at Kansas, I picked Chase. He got me a 2nd place finish and 52 points. That means I picked last this week. Matt, you chose James Dennis Hamlin. He got you a 5th place finish and 41 points. And Eric picked Ryan Blaney. Some bad luck got him 1 point. He didn't have any stage points to help save that at all. So Eric, you're picking first for Martinsville. Matt picks second, and I go last. Eric, who you picking?
We're going to Martinsville. And I usually don't pick the number 1 when it's sitting there waiting for me. I tend to go with my gut, but my gut here tells me Kyle Busch.
All right. Okay, I like it. A little misdirection.
I'm taking MTJ. I'm taking MTJ.
I'm going with back-to-back choices for me the last 2 weeks. I'm going with Chase Elliott. I know he doesn't really need a win. I think he's going to be going for that win. We'll see what happens. He got the win here last year to advance into the playoffs. We'll see what happens. I think, like I said earlier on the podcast, looking at the round of 8 drivers, they are all fantastic drivers at Martinsville. You have Kyle Larson, who's just been dominant. He's already locked in. 2nd place is Chase Elliott, 34 points to the good. He won here last year. Denny Hamlin in 3rd place, 32 points to the good. Like I said, never bet against Denny in the playoffs. He could get it done in one of those Gibbs cars. Kyle Busch, 1 point to the good. He's going to be looking for that win. Ryan Blaney sitting 1 point out of the playoffs. He's looking for that win. Martin Truex Jr., 3 points sitting out, looking for that win. Brad Keselowski, 6 points, looking out for that win. But either of these guys, a little bad luck in the top 4, and they could advance easily. Joey Logano definitely needs a win. He is 26 points out. Actually, he needs 2 stage wins, and he needs to finish like 6 spots above like Chase Elliott or something. And he could get his way in. But man, this is going to be exciting. This is going to make up for Kansas and Texas in the last couple of races being duds, because I am super excited for Martinsville.
Off the top of my head, I could be wrong here. I don't think I am. The only 2 guys out of those 8 who have not won at Martinsville is Larson and Blaney. Everyone else has won at Martinsville.
Yeah.
At least once, if not a few times. So, and then Larson and Blaney are both, as you said, very capable. So I am super excited. I'm like, for the first time since going back to the Roval, I am really, really, really looking forward to this race. I cannot wait.
Yeah. I have a fun side prop bet just for us. Do we see a playoff driver turn another playoff driver like we saw Kevin Harvick do to Kyle Busch last year to try to save their playoff standings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think does it? A little side
I don't
action.
know.
I think my reasoning behind my picks here and there is because Blaney, first time he's in this position where to get to the Final Four, pressure's going to get to him. He's going to overdrive his equipment, and he's going to get into trouble. Kyle Busch, he's been bitching and moaning and complaining. They've been saving for this 750. They've been saving for this race. They're going to dial in his car for this race.
Yeah.
He's not going to drive his equipment. He's going to bring that thing home where he needs it to. And I think if anybody is going to bump for the win, it's going to be Martin Truex Jr. against his own teammate, which is going to be Denny Hamlin. I think those two, the 19 and the 11, are going to be battling each other all day. And one of those guys is going to end up sour at the end of the race.
See,
Yeah, I think we see something go down.
I was thinking of two other teammates getting into it. I think Brad Keselowski might get into it, Joey Logano going for a couple points here or there. You know, and
they've gotten into it. They've gotten into it in the past.
And how great would that be? We will see. We'll see what happens this Sunday, 2 p.m. in Martinsville for the Xfinity Series 5, or not the Xfinity Series, the Xfinity 500 on NBC, and we will break it all down for you Monday night right here on the Bump and Run podcast. We're so close to the end. I'm getting real excited, fellas. For Matt the Stat Man Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
Bump and dump and run.